Hey, I'm in New Mexico. I'm here doing a little bit of ministry, actually heading to the airport to catch a plane. And look at the wide open spaces. It's, as far as you can see, it's pretty barren. I mean, there's barely a tree. Here's the crazy thing to me. Look at the fence. And then there's another fence over there, and the fence, there's nothing. Why are you putting up a fence? To keep your nothing separate from that person's nothing? Let's keep our nothings separate from one another. Okay, maybe there's something very valuable, maybe a tumbleweed. We're trying to keep it from rolling into the next empty pasture. It's just interesting how we are so careful to fence off our possessions and hold on to what we own because it's mine and it's not yours. But in 1 Timothy chapter 6, it really talks a lot about being generous and even content. He says, if I have food and clothing, in verse 8, he says, with that I should be content. Are you content if you have food on the table and clothes on your back? He said, we brought nothing into the world and we can't take anything out of it either. He's talking about possessions. He's talking about being generous. You came into the world naked and empty-handed, and that's the same way you're going to leave. There's not even any, well, there's one car. I said there's not even any cars out here on this barren road. One day we go to heaven empty-handed. The only thing that we can send ahead is our generosity on earth, which translates into saved souls that one day will go to heaven. And he talks about that later in verse 18. He says, if you want to be rich, he says, be rich in generosity, be rich in good deeds, be rich in the way that you share. And then verse 19, he says, for in so doing, we are storing up treasure in the future. Jesus said something very similar on the Sermon on the Mount, you might recall, when he said we should store up treasures in heaven that moth can't eat and rust can't destroy. In other words, there is a way to hold on to your stuff. There's a way to see it again, and that is when you're generous. When you give your possessions away, when you give to God what belongs to Him, a tithe, an offering, you're storing up treasure one day in heaven. And it's stored up in the form of souls that come to Christ because of your generosity. So today, why don't you look for a way to be generous? And if you want to have an immediate application, you could even give a gift. You could give a gift to your church online. Be generous. That's the message he's trying to share. And tomorrow, we'll start a brand new book. We'll look at 2 Timothy. Have a great day, church.